excited to introduce our next guest. You see him every day on the show. He is my music director and has been for over 20 years, and he's the man behind the keys. And she is an entertainment manager who just happens to be his wife. Together, they just finished their first book under the shared pen name RJ Halbert. It's called Caretaker. It is so good. Let's welcome my friends Rhonda and Jason Halbert. I knew you were gonna mess with the band. Like, this is so weird. Because we've known each other for so long. I'm like, well, hello, Halbert.
Kelly Clarkson.
Yes, this is so interesting. We were texting about this yesterday. But I am so stoked for y'all. It's so good. You know when your friends do something and you're like, super proud of you, but like, you're like, I don't know if it's that great. This is not that time. This is so good. Do you know you get nervous. We all have friends in the industry. No, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, you have friends in the industry and you're like, man, I hope it's good. It's so great. And I was telling him, my mother, who is a very honest person, and you know this very well, but like, she loved it and couldn't wait for the next one because it's a trilogy.
Yes.
So anyway, I'm so excited. Explain the book to everyone. I don't want to ruin it.
Okay. Well, it's a supernatural thriller. Well, you know how much we love a mashup. So it's a mashup of everything we've ever loved. It's a supernatural thriller. It has mystery, it has history, it has a little bit of therapy.
Yeah.
It's about a small family that needs a fresh start.
Yes.
And they move from Boston to a little town called Littleton, New Hampshire.
Yeah.
And they move into their dream house, and strange things start happening. And you're not sure if this house is trying to kill them or try to save them. It's everything we love all in one book. It's a little creepy, a little inspiring, all the things.
But man, I was so upset when I finished it because I was like, no, because then you have to wait till the next one comes out. So like, they left you, it was rude. But because I was texting you about it a lot. I was just like, I love anything thought-provoking. I love feeling inspired of something. I love feeling healed after reading something. Like, it was so great. But you didn't actually set out to write a book in the first place, right?
No.
No, we, in 2020, our lives just completely flipped upside down. And we made a bet that we weren't going to cry, and here I am. 2020 was difficult. I know everyone knows that. By the end of the year, we had lost aunts, dogs, my mother. I was taking care of her with one of the worst diseases that I think I would never even wish on one of my enemies. Then we cross over into 21 and we lose 10 more people to COVID, and then we lose a nephew to a random shotgun from an apartment across the way.
I promise you, this individual would come into work like every week and something, I mean, we kept wondering, like, what is happening in y'all's world? Like, no, it's not even, it's just like, what, it became like almost this dark, hideous joke. It's like, it's like, oh my God, something keeps happening. Something devastating keeps happening.
Yes.
And so you needed to find some kind of vessel for that.
Yeah, I didn't want to live my life anymore, so I just wanted to write someone else's life.
Yeah.
And so it felt like an easier way to transition into not existing in the pain that I was in.
Because so much.
It was too much. But the last thing that broke what is the phrase? The straw
broke the camel's back with a
Broke the straw. Yeah.
This
the
is
straw
such
that
a
broke the
Jason
camel's back.
thing.
Yeah.
We lost our home
to
a flood.
Yeah, I know it sounds like, we're privileged to even have a home to lose, but dang it.
I know, I'm sorry, and I knew this was gonna happen. There's so much pain and there's so much loss, and look how perfect.
Two goals, not to cry, not to say something stupid, so I've got to say something stupid next. It's a beautiful home, but what a home represents is the memories you have in it. And we had already lost so many important people.
Yeah.
And then we lose the memories associated with them. And it also represents your future dreams. And I was with Jocko in Utah, we were playing for Colby Calais, and we'd already lost all this family and all this heartache. And I took a day to myself. I'm like, I'm gonna go hike, and I'm just gonna go, because Kelly every day is like, take time off work, go get some therapy. And I'm like, no, I think that will kill me. I don't wanna go see a therapist that's gonna tell me how to make this all okay, because I'm not okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, I take this day and I go like hike in the mountains, and it was like the best day ever. Get back to my hotel that night, and that's when our home flooded. And we're standing in the ruins of the house, and all of a sudden, I just, out of desperation, like when you're hurting, you just want to do something. So I'm like, okay, God, if we'll take on rebuilding this house, will you please just rebuild our lives? And that sparked this idea of like, what if we could do things like that? What if we could do things in the physical that affect other things? And after that, I came back to work, and you were going through a lot in your life at the time, and you were trying to get me to go to therapy, and I was like, no. She was trying to get me to go to therapy. I'm like, no. And we had Amy Grant on the show, and the band went to lunch with her afterwards, and we were talking about some of these things, and she recommended a brain therapy called Saraset. And I'm like, okay, that I can do. Like, I don't have to talk to anybody. It's just going to be like, they're going to fix my brain. And I came out of that, and I'll let Rhonda take it from here. Like, all of a sudden, it unlocked all this creativity, and that little seed of a story, all of a sudden, I literally came out, I could see this whole thing. And so
and you started kind of recording everything he was saying?
Yeah, he just started talking and just telling this fantastic story, and I was like, oh my gosh, I just knew immediately something was happening here. So I grabbed out my phone and I started to record and voice memo him.
Yeah.
And between the two of us, we bantered back and forth and dreamt the whole story and talked about the characters and where the storyline was going to go in 3.5 hours. And that became our trilogy. That's what happened. Just the brain treatment unlocked everything and gave us a space to be able to calm our brains down and to actually live something out that was removed from our own pain.
And by the way, they're starting to do therapies like this. We're going to touch on this in a minute, but like for veterans, for anyone and serious kind of trauma, like from childhood or from war, like anything, like they're starting to do that, almost like a rewiring of sorts. Like,
it's amazing.
And I remember you coming back talking about it. I was like, how do I do this? But I could never fit in the schedule. We're in LA because I thought it would be very helpful because I feel like I could work on myself my entire life, and you're still changing, you're still growing. There's still a better version of you, I think, to be seen. But it's hard to let go of a lot of that trauma. But I gotta ask you this before we get to the more serious stuff. How did you co-author? Because I know how you co-author a song, but like, how do you, like an entire story, like how did y'all work that out to where you both were?
So as you know, like, you guys live here and I live in Nashville. And so I have to travel to be with Jason quite often. I have to be in Nashville because we're actually rebuilding the flooded house and it needs to be babysat because I heard you talking earlier with Jean Smart, and construction is a nightmare. And you do have to babysit your contractors. And so that's what I'm doing. So we've lived our lives like that where I'm constantly going back and forth. And so at home, I would just take that voice memo and break it down into the largest outline I've ever done, which, by the way, I just want to say I'm dyslexic, so this was torture. This was hard. I don't know why I did it, but I did it. And I pushed myself beyond what I ever thought I could do.
See, maybe that's a superpower. We've had a lot of talks about dyslexia because my daughter's dyslexic as well, and all the different forms of it and everything. But I think because your brain works like that, it's almost how y'all work together on this. I feel like musically, like we're coming from two totally different worlds usually, but how y'all, it was interesting how I couldn't tell who wrote what because it was kind of seamlessly done, but it was from two different worlds. It was so...
Yeah, she put in all the heart and the characters, and I was trying to put in the mystery and stuff, but I found myself, I actually enjoyed writing dialogue. I mean, she told me to start journaling my feelings, and like, blah, I'm not a journaler. And then I listened to you talk about you were working things out through songs. I actually tried to write some songs. I couldn't separate my job from it. I kept worrying about the sounds and production. And so when we were writing together, like all of a sudden I was taking these characters that were based on something we knew and then letting them live out these stories. Like that was so therapeutic. It must be what you feel like when you're writing a song. And it's so interesting because like I misinterpret your songs all the time. I'm like, oh, I love that song because it meant this. And you're like, nope. It's fun with this.
I remember this one song in particular.
Me too. I think it's the sweetest love song ever. And you're like, no. Well, that's what's great about it.
It's the darkest song I've ever written. And I was like, we're always from two totally different worlds. Like, it's like, but that's what I think is beautiful about it. And that's why I think it works out. But it is therapeutic to get it out. And I imagine it's got to be kind of like how I talk to actors on the stage, and they're telling me, you know, sometimes it's harder to play themselves in real life, like on a, you know, they're not playing a character when they're doing interviews. They're like, we're always used to playing characters, so sometimes that can be a little, you know, odd for them. But I think it's kind of a nice, not escapism, but a vessel to kind of write in the form of a character, because it's some form of separation from it to where maybe you can see it from a different vantage point.
Absolutely. I think I was taking all the emotions that I was going through of the deepest heartbreak I've ever felt in my life, like actually feeling a fracture in my heart, and the loneliness and the isolation from COVID and the depression that came with it, and every emotion you can imagine. I just took all of that and thought, what if I could put that in these characters? what shocked me is I processed through those characters. So they're not me and Jason, but they are the emotions and the feelings that we felt.
Yeah.
And I, as you can attest to, I put them through some pretty scary things in this book.
Oh, my mother had to stop reading at one point because she literally called me and was like, this feels too real, like this is a memory and not like a book, like that I'm reading. And I was like, well, I know one of those stories is a memory because I knew from him. So I was like, but yeah, I think it's all placed in from reality, but then you take it somewhere else, like for the story.
I think it pushed me beyond even my own limits, my own experiences. And pushing me past my experience, I think caused me to see it from a different perspective. Mm-hmm. I think when you're so low, when you are that low to the ground, you just can't see anything but the ground.
Yeah.
And this was just an opportunity for me to be able to come up above it and look at it from a top world view and just be able to see that you're going to be okay, Rhonda.
It's a remarkable way to heal, but also entertain. Yeah. Because while all this is in here and it's very serious, it's actually a very fun book. And I kept waiting for, I don't want to ruin it, but like kind of what's going on in the beginning. I was like, oh good, it ends like somewhere in that lane. Because I was hoping it was kind of going to explain kind of what that, it's so well written. And my mother reads, she's an avid reader. She reads books like all the time. So it's like literally, I don't even know how she reads as many books as she's read. But she was so entertained by it. And it was one of those things too where, you know, it's probably hard because all your friends and loved ones are like reading something and you're like, wait, are you reading this with like a loving heart? Or like you're really reading it like with a book? And it really is that way. Like it's really so well done that you cannot wait for the next one. Awesome. In Caretaker, Jason and Rhonda include the lyrics to a number of songs, including The Carpenters, We've Only Just Begun, Boston's More Than a Feeling, and Coldplay's Fix You, which we sang at the top of the show. In the digital version, you can actually click to hear the songs as well, which is a very creative idea in general when you're reading, to have almost like a playlist, like while you're reading the book. That's a very clever idea. I think you should come up with some kind of app. I'm like, this is a very smart idea for books in general, but why was it so important to you?
I mean, we live our lives around music. I mean, I'm in there, like I have a soundtrack for walking down the street. I have a soundtrack for being sad. Like I need, like if I'm sad, I need sadder music. Like we live and, you know, our kids grew up on the road and every moment of our lives had a music experience. And it was, being first-time authors, we finished the book and everybody's like, you can't put lyrics in a book. And we're like, why can't you put lyrics in a book? And they're like, well, you got to get permission and licensing. And I'm like, well, I've learned a little bit about that on the Kelly Clarkson Show. So we reached out and one of the artists for one of our favorite songs, they want to read the book first because when you're licensing something, they're like, they want to make sure they want their art associated with it.
Absolutely.
And one of the artists was like, yeah, have the song for free in perpetuity. Like, we're like, score.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was really validating. So I couldn't imagine a book without music.
It's just been a part of our lives. We've known each other since childhood. Got married at 18 and 19.
No, literally since childhood. Like what, 10? Like 10. When you were really little, like 10 years old.
Oh my gosh.
Like, you with hair is so freaky to me. It's so weird. Because I've not known you that way. And I'm like, it's the weirdest thing in the world every time you show me a picture of you with hair. And it's usually a mullet.
Baldness is God's punishment for a mullet. So
it's like I had. No, it's amazing. I love it so much. And it's just such a beautiful love story. But so that's why we ended up playing Fix You. Because that was one of the, that is the perfect song while reading this book. Because I feel like, first of all, it's a weird thing to say to fix someone. I don't think we need to necessarily be fixed, but sometimes you can feel broken and you need some kind of tools to aid in that, like piecing together. You know, it was like the perfect song for it. Their first book, Caretaker, book one of the Good Pasture Chronicles, comes out next week on May 7th. Oh my God, there's so much to marshal. Good Pasture. Anyway, I love the characters. I'm very excited about this. So you just did your very first book signing.
Yes.
Did you feel so posh?
No, it's wild. It's like, I understand a fraction of what you go through after every album. It's like, we just finished, like you do all the work and you're like, done. It's like, no, it's just starting.
Right.
But we've been in a bubble, like we've been the only people talking about this book. So to get to see so many friendly faces and like some people have actually read it already and need to talk about it. It's just like, and people have encouraging stories. Like it's fun.
Yeah,
But weird.
it is overwhelming though. You need like a refuel after it. You're like, oh my God, that was a lot of energy exerted. Yes, yes. Well, obviously with a book signing, it's only fitting that Jason and Rhonda use pens from our season-long partner Pilot Pen, makers of Precise, the go-to Precise pen of the Kelly Clarkson Show. Way to go, guys. You see, it's a great pen.
Wouldn't dream of another pen.
I'm just saying, it's a great pen. So it is funny. They're our partners, but we really do use the pens. But you see a big future for this book, right? Because I'm telling you, whenever I don't do this with every book I read, but when they're good, you can almost visually see the series or the movie. So are y'all envisioning this?
I mean, my dream is a series, a three to four season series. Like we can really tell the story because, you know, when you read this book, it's almost, I'm a huge fan of Lost. So like the first season of Lost, you're on a beach. You think that's the whole world. At the end of it, they discover the hatch and you're like, oh, this book really, this wasn't
Spoiler
about that.
alert!
Yeah. Well, sorry.
If you haven't seen it, that's your problem.
Similar in the book, we're setting something up here that there's a much bigger world that we tease at the beginning and the end of the book.
Yeah.
And so as a part of selling that or trying to help people imagine that, I'll let you.
We've decided that we're going to try to take on another big project with an audiobook.
Yeah.
And I guess
this is going to be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Jason doesn't do anything small or half-hearted, so
She doesn't keep me busy enough.
Yeah, I don't care. Exactly. I was like, how did you do this with all our jobs? I was so upset. I was like,
so we reached out and thought about the best actors that we could find that we envisioned for these voices, and we reached out to them, not really knowing them, and we had everybody we wanted to sign on to become the voices for our audiobook.
It's so good.
And amazingly, each person was like, well, let me read the book first. And then they came back and they were like, we're in. And that just was so shocking to me. I wasn't prepared for everybody's responses, and I'm just overwhelmed by all the positive responses.
And by the way, that doesn't usually happen. People are busy. Like, you know what I'm saying? People always have things going on, so it doesn't always happen that way.
Speaking of busy, we nabbed one of the busiest people in show business.
We did. I think we can announce it.
Yeah. Kelly's going to be in our
Oh, you're
book.
announcing? I was like, wait, me? I was like, wait. I get to be in it. I get to be in it. I hate acting, and only will I do it for this couple. No, but I'm very excited.
We are too.
I mean, the character's name is Kelly. It's fine. This is actually very cool because I did not put this together when you said when you were releasing the book, but you chose May specifically, right, for a reason?
We did. We knew that May was Mental Health Awareness Month. And I've said to everybody that if this book never gets read by anybody else, it was for me. It healed me. But I feel like if it could heal me, it might be able to heal other people.
Yes,
so we chose this month because it deals with so many multiple sides of that we actually want to try to help people. I think it just feels a little too selfish to take our pain and hide away. I think if we're real with each other, if we become a community with each other, if we share our lives with each other, it actually pulls other people out. And so that's what we're hoping that this book does. So that's why we chose May.
I love this. Jason and Rhonda connected with a friend who happens to be a therapist to get his insights on the book. That doctor saw an additional purpose for the book. We have Dr. Long in the audience right now. So how do you think you'll use this book for like patients and even how the healing process of it? How do you think you'll apply that?
I think there's so many beautiful themes in this book. The theme of community and connection.
Yeah.
Connecting to something greater than you. Thinking about the idea of like softball or baseball and how the catcher wears a chest protector. And you think about when the ball is coming at them and it hits them, it sort of softens the blow. And to me, community is like that. It gives us, it's like we lock arms together and we gain support from one another. Another theme in the book is having a fresh start. And, you know, we don't want to run away from anything, and I don't think this book proposes that at all. But when we have a fresh start, the most important fresh start is the fresh start inside of us, sort of that internal fresh start that we deal with us. And then if you move that to geography or to a different friend group, that's a side benefit. But the most important fresh start is that with inside you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was Jessie that you told me one time in therapy, her therapist had said something like, change one thing in your routine, like change one thing, and then it won't be the same. just one thing in what you're doing, and you're not in a great place, so just change the one thing, and that'll at least change something, and then maybe change something else. That's why I feel like this book, it's not about, well, first of all, I think we're talking about it like it's a self-help. It's not a self, it's like it's an actual just trilogy and an amazing story, but the self-help aspect of it is incredible, and I think it'll do incredible things for people reading, because I experienced that, and I did not know I was gonna experience that while reading it. But I like the idea that it's not running from the problems. It's like they actually dealt with it better when they did get that fresh start and they moved to, but there was some foreshadowing that I don't know. I was reading it. I'm gonna not say it on camera, but I have like ideas. There was some foreshadowing from what the daughter says at one point about the town. I don't know. I'm just saying. I didn't know if it was foreshadowing or I was just picking up. Like, I go, okay. I was like, oh, I hope this is some cool foreshadowing. Anyway, it's so good. But I agree with you though. It was very. I think I was just reading the book to go on an adventure because it's quite an adventure. The book, and I literally ended up like tearing up on the plane. One, because I know some of this is based in reality, and two, because it just affects you. You kind of look at your life and how you deal with, even though it's an adventure story, you look at how you would handle something.
Yes.
And it helps you let go. It's very interesting. Anyway, well done.
Well, thank
well
you.
done.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, pre-orders for Caretaker are available now. I am very stoked about book 2 already. Whatever, servant, get on it, you too. And if you're in New York City on May 6th and 7th, head to the shop at NBC Studios where Jason and Rhonda will be doing book signings. We'll be right back with What I'm Liking.